Well, I never planned on making a video like this, and obviously you guys probably know what we were talking about from the title of this video. I wanted to just do a quick update for you guys and catch you guys up on what's been going on the last 24 hours, which has been a complete whirlwind of emotions and just a lot has been going on. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, then you probably have no idea what's going on. I did want to start this video off by telling all of you thank you so much from the bottom of my heart from sending me so many DMs over on Instagram and wishing me well wishes, and it just means a lot to me, and all your prayers and all of that stuff. I appreciate it so much. But I just wanted to preface this video with, obviously, I know that things could have been way worse than they were, and I'm very grateful and thankful to God that it was not worse than it was, because it very well could have been. Enough of that. We are going to get into what happened. I don't know how soon I'm gonna get this video up. I'm going to try to edit it and get it up by tonight. So if you are seeing this on Thursday night, this accident happened on Wednesday morning at about 10:30. I actually take my dogs over to my parents' house every single morning before I go to work, because they do not live very far from me, and I don't like to leave my dogs for long periods of time while I'm at work. So I was about halfway to my parents' house, and there is a three-way stop, which I've experienced a lot of people running the three-way stop, and thankfully I saw them and it was not a big deal. But I remember approaching the three-way stop. I was going east on the road, and then there was two other stop signs going north and south. So I was approaching the stop sign, and I remember seeing a white BMW approaching on my right-hand side that was going north on the road. I didn't see anyone else, so as soon as the BMW went, it was my turn to start going. I start inching into the intersection, and probably halfway into the intersection, I see out of the corner of my eye a giant truck coming extremely fast. Like, this thing was not going to stop at the stop sign. So instantly, you know, when you're in a situation like this, you don't know what to do. I didn't know if I was supposed to speed up, if I was supposed to slam on the brakes. I didn't know, obviously, what he was going to do, if he was going to swerve one way or another. So I did what I thought was best, and I just slammed on my brakes as hard as I could. Now, I want to also mention that my doggies were with me in the car, which still makes me emotional to this day, because I wish that they wouldn't have been, obviously. I wish that it was just me in the car, but unfortunately it wasn't. I'm going to try not to be super annoying and crying in this whole entire video, just because I want to tell you guys what happened and not have you guys have to look at me crying the whole entire video. So when I hit the brakes, it all happened pretty quickly. Obviously, it happened in a few seconds, so I didn't really remember much. I remember this truck hitting me, T-boning me on the side, which, another thing that is pretty emotional to talk about too is the fact that he hit me on the front part of my car, and if he would have hit me even a few inches to the right, it would have been directly on my driver's side door, which would have been a lot worse, to say the least. This truck was probably coming at least 45 to 50 miles an hour, and totally just barreled through the stop sign. I still to this day don't know how the hell this guy didn't see the stop sign. There's flashing lights on top of the stop sign as well. I will insert some pictures as well, so you guys can kind of see the truck and what it looked like, and also my car as well. So as soon as the truck hit me, my car spun around. I don't know how many times, but we did spin pretty bad. The airbags immediately deployed, which obviously I've never been in a car accident this bad before, so I have never experienced airbags deploying. I think in the moment of getting hit and spinning and the airbags deploying, I think I kind of blacked out for a little bit, and from what the doctors have told me, that's pretty normal for that to happen, just because obviously there's a lot happening. So as soon as the car stopped, the airbags were obviously completely deployed on the whole driver's side. The first thing that I thought was, oh my gosh, I have to get out of this car, because I saw smoke immediately, which scared the living hell out of me. So I tried to open my driver's side door and it wouldn't open. So you can imagine the panic that I had going through my body. So I took my seatbelt off, and in the midst of trying to get my door open, I remember trying to grab for my phone because everything flew everywhere in my car. So I finally kick open the door, and I'm trying to get through the airbags while being totally out of it at the same time. The first thing that I remember getting out of the car was this woman who was the witness to the crash, which she is seriously an angel, you guys. Like, I wish I knew who she was. I'm going to try to figure out who she was. I just know her first name, but she immediately came running over to me, and the first thing that I kind of noticed when I looked down was that I was bleeding on my right hand pretty bad. It looked at first like I had glass in my hand, which turned out it actually wasn't. It was a huge flap of skin that had been lifted up. So she came over and asked me if I was okay, and then I instantly thought, oh my gosh, my dogs are in the back of my car. I need to get them out. She also saw that my car was smoking, so she pretty immediately said, let's get everything out of the car. She was nice enough to let me put my doggies in her car. My poor little puppy, my black little dog, Zoe, was absolutely terrified. Obviously my other dog was too, but she would not let me get her out of the car. I would try to open the doors and she would jump to the front or jump to the back, and both of my front doors you couldn't really open unless you like pried them open. So finally we got both of the dogs in her car, and this is where, you know, I don't know if you guys believe in God. I 100% do. And I think that by the grace of God, there was a police officer that was actually a few feet back, or, you know, however far back from me before the accident happened. And by the time I was getting out of the car and getting the dogs in the witness's car, there was a policeman there already on scene, you know, coming up asking me if I needed medical. So he ended up calling the ambulance and the fire truck, which they were there pretty quickly. I feel like time was flying during this whole situation. I did obviously call my mom, which I forgot to mention. I called her immediately too and told her I had just gotten in a really bad car accident. And thankfully she was actually right down the street. So she got there really quickly. My brother was there also very quickly. So after all of that kind of went on, the ambulance and the fire truck got there, and I went into the ambulance and they were kind of trying to evaluate my injuries. I did have a pretty good cut on my right thumb, which now thankfully I just can have a band-aid on. But like I said, there's a pretty big flap of skin just kind of hanging there, so it's not the funnest thing, obviously. And I didn't realize it at first because obviously you're so full of adrenaline and you're kind of in shock. But obviously my left side of my body was pretty impacted from the airbags and just obviously the trauma of the accident. I started noticing within probably a couple minutes that my wrist was really hurting, and my knuckles on my left hand, it started swelling up pretty big and I couldn't move my wrist. So I actually declined going in the ambulance to the hospital. They did recommend that I do go to the hospital to be seen. So after I was done in the ambulance, I get out and the police officer had actually left. The reason being is because the accident actually happened in the county where I live instead of the city. So like literally a few feet west of where the accident happened was the city, but it did happen in the county. So we unfortunately had to wait for the state trooper to get to the accident to evaluate everything. The sheriff's department here where I live actually does not respond to crashes, apparently. You learn something new every day, but that was an extremely long process. So once he got there, we finally got things rolling. I filled out my incident report and we ended up having to obviously get my car and the other huge truck towed because the other driver completely killed both of our cars. We're not 100% sure yet. Insurance hasn't fully come back yet and said that my car is totaled, but my insurance agent has said that he's almost 99% sure that it is, just because of the structural damage to the car and also all the airbags deployed, which is really expensive to fix as well. They had to get it towed. Now, the officer wanted to expedite the process because we physically could not move either cars. My car was completely wrecked, like we could not push it off the road. This was in the middle of an intersection, so it was really causing traffic. So that was their number one priority, is to get this off the road so that traffic can resume regularly. But this is where the problem came in. So the problem with that is the officer is the one who contacted the towing company. Since he did that, my car was pretty much going to be impounded if I left the scene because I was the owner of the car. So if I left and went to the hospital like I wanted to and like my mom and dad wanted me to do, my car would have been impounded because I wouldn't have been able to tell the tow truck to take it somewhere, and I wouldn't have been able to pay him. So that was really frustrating because obviously I didn't know the extent of my injuries. Again, I know I was conscious and talking, but I knew that there was some other issues wrong. So that whole process happened. Thankfully, the tow truck did take it to the body shop that we wanted it to, and we were able to pay him instead of having to get it out of impound and pay a ton of money. So after that, we obviously went to the hospital, and that was a pretty smooth process. We were there for probably another 2.5 hours or so. They checked me in and did x-rays on my wrist and my hand, and as you can see, I have a little splint or brace thing on. My wrist is not broken, thankfully. I was so scared about that because obviously I do hair for a living and I kind of need my hands for my job. They did end up cleaning this little guy out. They put some numbing medication on the thumb just because, like I said, there was a pretty big piece of skin that had been lifted up. So they didn't know if they were gonna have to do stitches or not. Thankfully they didn't, because your girl is a little baby. I did have to get a tetanus shot right there as well because the nurse asked me if I had an up-to-date tetanus vaccine, and I could not answer that question. Other than that, I don't have a ton of other injuries. My neck is really sore on the left side and my whole left side of my body. I have a pretty good mark going up the side of my body right here, and I also have some bruises on my left leg as well, which again is to be expected. So I totally forgot to mention the doggies, which are the most important part of this whole entire story. I did go and get them taken to the vet right after I got out of the hospital. That was like the one thing I was worrying about. I just wanted to get them to the vet, obviously, because that is a pretty insane crash for two little doggies to go through. Thankfully, I did have the little canopy in the back so they didn't fly through completely, which would have been absolutely horrible. The vet did check them both really well and said that there wasn't any apparent injuries at all. After we got home from the vet yesterday, my little puppy Zoe started whimpering when she would get up. Like, she'd be laying down and she'd get up and she would start whimpering a lot. So that was definitely concerning. I was up pretty much all last night just having such anxiety, and it didn't help that every time I closed my eyes, all that I saw was the crash happening again. So my anxiety is pretty intense right now, and hopefully that'll calm down within obviously the next few weeks or so. But I think it's just all a lot to take in. I'm probably missing some things that happened or important details to mention. But as of now, that is all that I can remember to fill you guys in on. So unfortunately, it's gonna be a very long process and not a fun one. But again, things could be way worse. I'm super happy that I am here. I'm able to go back to work in a couple days, and that is about it, you guys. Obviously not a fun video to make, not one that I ever wanted to make, but I just wanted to fill you guys in, let you know what's going on. I do have some pre-filmed videos to upload, so you probably will be seeing that after this video. So hold your loved ones tight, you guys. You never know what can happen. Things can change in a blink of an eye. So thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you again for all of the love and prayers and support in general. I appreciate it so, so much, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye, stay marvelous.